Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. This is a comprehensive, thoughtful and constructive report, and I pay tribute to the Honourable Member for Folkestone and Hythe and his committee for their tireless work. Generally speaking, I welcome the work on tackling online abuse, and in particular, I note the contributions made by my honourable friend, the member for Stroud, and her vital work on cyberflashing, my honourable friend, the member for Brecon and Radnorshire. In my previous contributions on this subject, I have noted some horrific examples of anti-Semitic abuse in particular, which underscores for me the importance of what this bill will do. We cannot continue in a world where we have nearly 2 anti-Semitic tweets for every Jewish person in the UK. Measures to tackle this are, of course, central to the bill and rightly take pride of place within the bill. However, in the time I have available, I want to speak on the issue that has not always been front and centre of the debate: online fraud. The City of London Police, based in my constituency, is the national lead for economic and cybercrime and the national lead for fraud. Their contributions to the committee, alongside the Office of the Remembrancer, cannot be understated. It was made clear in the Joint Committee report that fraud and cybercrime are on an upward trajectory, affecting more people more often than any other crime today. We know that fraudsters are increasingly sophisticated. They are always looking for the next chink in our digital armour. So I'm glad that Section 186 in the report makes clear that we need to act on the human consequences of online fraud, not just financially, but the psychological effects too. And unfortunately, I suspect that the COVID pandemic may have been one of the triggers that has caused the increase in sophisticated cases of, for instance, online romance fraud. To this end, it is right that we have moved beyond the White Paper scope to include fraud in the bill. Now we must ask ourselves how we can, as legislators, effectively tackle online fraud in this bill, recognising that online fraud and acknowledging it is as a first step. But behind this acknowledgement, there needs to be robust recommendations and proposals to ensure safety moving forward. This is not about paying lip service to online fraud. The forthcoming bill cannot stop at being simply reactive. The committee is right that any measures to counteract fraud must prioritise prevention. It is not enough for providers to simply undertake a risk assessment for fraudulent content and take down this content when reported. To effectively combat online fraud, we need legislation that requires platform operators to be proactive in stopping fraudulent material in the first instance, not simply removing it when people tell them about it. To this end, I welcome the recommendations that Clause 41, Section 4 be amended to add a fraud offence, and that related clauses are similarly introduced or amended so that companies are required to proactively address this. Alongside this, the draft bill's proposals explicitly exclude paid-for advertising from the scope of the legislation. Clearly, this would undermine any meaningful effort to properly combat all online fraud in the bill, and potentially would create a loophole for criminals to circumvent legislation. As such, I support the committee's recommendations in sections 268 to 271 in the report that would bring such advertising into scope, make sure that Ofcom would be responsible for acting against service providers who consistently allow paid-for advertising that creates a risk of harm to their platforms. Madam Deputy Speaker, I know this government will respond with strength on this issue, and I welcome the Minister's meetings with me to discuss it in full. And I'm glad to see such widespread support in this place for this report. I am in no doubt we need to protect our citizens against aggressive and malicious abuses of technology. It is now or never.